Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world: movies, movie news, TV, streaming, all sorts of good stuff. And it's Black Friday today, right? Is that what today is? Today is Black Friday. Anyway, as you can tell, I have given the entire John Campea Show staff the day off. We gave them a 4-day weekend. So yesterday, we gave them off for Thanksgiving. We gave them all the day off today. But I knew my film-loving community would still want to talk about movies and movie news and all sorts of good stuff. So I'm here doing the show solo. So please, guys, if you don't mind, be a little patient with me, as I'm trying to do everything by myself again. It's not easy to do, and we do have a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about here today. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to break it into two parts, as always. First, we're going to talk about some predetermined topics that I've got lined up. Then in the second half of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. So if you've got a thought, theory, opinion, or question that you'd like me to read and address in the second half of the show, go ahead and use the super chat function, and send that in, and I will read those off when we get into the second half of the show. All right, guys. With all that down, let's get into some stuff here, shall we? And we're going to start off with this. You know, Avatar 2 is quickly approaching. A lot of people are getting excited about it. I think the trailers have looked beautiful. I mean, there's no denying the trailers have looked absolutely spectacular. I think they look great. But, you know, the trailers haven't really been showing me or telling me what the movie's even about, really. Not really. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. I never doubt James Cameron, because he always delivers at the end of the day. That's what James Cameron always does. He delivers. But, you know, I've been wondering, you know, how good is this movie going to be? Well, the critic reviews for Avatar 2 don't come out for another couple of weeks, I think. But there's already one reaction and review online. And that is the reaction and the review by Guillermo Del Toro. I guess James Cameron let Guillermo Del Toro go and sit down and watch Avatar 2. And Guillermo Del Toro is raving about it. Absolutely raving about it. Now, I'm going to read some of the stuff here. This is in IndieWire. But here's what IndieWire wrote about this. Critics won't weigh in on James Cameron's highly anticipated Avatar sequel for a few more weeks, but if Guillermo del Toro is to be believed, then the boundary-pushing water adventure will surely dazzle audiences and the box office come December 16th. This is what Del Toro said. A staggering achievement, Del Toro tweeted on Thursday about Avatar: The Way of Water, is chock full of majestic vistas and emotions at an epic scale. A master at the peak of his powers. Let me read that again. This is what Guillermo del Toro said about this movie. A staggering achievement. Avatar: The Way of Water is chock full of majestic vistas and emotions at an epic scale. A master at the peak of his powers. Now, again, this isn't coming from John Campea or some Gus's gas station movie reviews .fart. This is Guillermo del Toro saying this. Now, you might want to take that with a little grain of salt. I get it if you do. I think Guillermo del Toro, obviously he knows James Cameron, probably friends with James Cameron, and so assumedly he wouldn't want to get online and start talking crap about a friend of his movies, stuff like that, right? That being said, I also don't think Guillermo del Toro is going to come out and lie to his fans. I mean, if Del Toro watched Avatar: The Way of Water and didn't like it, I'm 100% sure he wouldn't get on Twitter and say, wow, I just watched Avatar 2 and it sucks. Like, I'm sure Del Toro wouldn't do that, but I'm sure he just probably wouldn't tweet about it at all. He probably just wouldn't say a thing. Like, I know if a buddy of mine, and this has happened, because, you know, I've had friends of mine make movies that I did not think was very good, and instead of coming out and saying, wow, this movie was garbage, I saw an early thing of this, and I just didn't say anything. Like, I would just be quiet about it. I would just let my silence do my speaking for me. And so I got to assume here, if Del Toro if Del Toro didn't like Avatar or thought it was okay or whatever, he just wouldn't have done anything. He just would have said to James Cameron, hey man, well done. Good job on your movie. I'm glad you did it. All the success in the world, blah, 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 blah. But then not tweet something about it. Instead, he comes out raving about it and talking about how great it is and all this kind of stuff. And again, you take all that with a little bit of a grain of salt. But at the same time, I think it's pretty impressive. Again, look, how good is this movie going to be? It's hard to say because it is a movie that we don't even know what it's about at this point. We've seen the original film. Almost, everybody liked the original film. I know it's the cool thing today to say that, oh, Avatar wasn't that good. Avatar was that good. It shouldn't have won Best Picture or anything, but it was a remarkable pop cultural defining kind of movie that everybody loved. And just to remind everybody, is the number one film of all time. So it's great. A lot of people looking forward to it. How well it's going to do at the box office, you heard me and Rob talk about this the other day. I think it's going to have a really, really solid opening weekend. I still don't think this movie makes $2 billion, which is fine. Only 5 movies in history have made $2 billion. 2 of them are James Cameron movies, Titanic and Avatar. But I do think it's going to be hugely successful. But how successful it's going to be is going to be completely dependent on how good or bad the movie is. And again, like IndieWires is saying, if Guillermo Del Toro is to be believed, he's saying it's an epic scale, both visually and emotionally. He says the movie is an example of a master at the peak of his powers. And again, I'm just saying, we got to see what the movie's going to be like ourselves. We got to see what the critics are going to say about it. But hey, if Guillermo Del Toro is going to come out and say that the movie's awesome, that's a pretty good start. Would we all agree that that's a pretty good start if Del Toro says the movie's awesome? Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about Guillermo Del Toro saying that Avatar 2, The Way of Water, is epic and the example of a master filmmaker at the height of his powers? Does that make you more excited for Avatar? Maybe you take it with a grain of salt. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to topic number 2 here, shall we? And our second topic is this. One of the most exciting things to happen in the world of movies in general, as far as I'm concerned, but comic book movies specifically, is the fact that James Gunn and Peter Safran have taken over DC, that David Zaslav and Warner Brothers have created DC Studios, its own studio, something that DC has never had before, set up its own studio and given them James Gunn and Peter Safran to be the CEOs and the chairman of that thing. I think that is one of the most exciting developments in ages if you're a movie fan, particularly a comic book movie fan, and I cannot wait to see what they do. By the way, just watch James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. We're going to be reviewing that in just a little bit later in the show, but spoiler alert, I really liked it. But we're going to talk about that in a bit. But one of the big questions that's surrounding DC right now is about, okay, now that James Gunn is in charge and Peter Safran is there and in charge, what are they going to make? What are they going to do? And one of the characters in particular that a lot of people have wondered about is Green Lantern. Now, we've heard all sorts talk about they're doing a HBO series of Green Lantern, and that sort of comes and goes. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what the status of that project is. As far as I know, it's still happening, but who knows? But what's going to happen with them on the movie screen? Well, apparently James Gunn absolutely has plans for Green Lantern on the big screen, when some people were starting to doubt that. Now, this comes as a result of a social media interaction, because James Gunn is very, very active on social media. And it comes as a result on social media where one Twitter user wrote, "No Green Lantern in the image." So just so you know, James Gunn put up an image of a bunch of DC characters doing a Thanksgiving Day sort of thing, and there was no Green Lantern in the picture. So this guy writes, "No Green Lantern in this image, therefore I can confidently claim that James Gunn and Peter Safran have no intention of adding that character into the DCU. It's a scoop I am 100% confident in." To which James Gunn then replied, "Probably not a good scoop," he wrote. "Probably not a good scoop. Happy Thanksgiving." So look, Do we take this as James Gunn definitively saying that I am doing a Green Lantern movie? Is that what James Gunn is saying here? Not necessarily. It's not 100%, but the implied message here is pretty clear. Somebody says, oh, well, James Gunn's not doing one. 100% he's not doing it. That's my scoop. He's not doing one. When James Gunn comes back on social media and says, yeah, probably not a good scoop, I think that should not tell us as fans that a Green Lantern movie or the announcement of a Green Lantern movie is imminent. It's going to happen any second now. We're going to hear about John Stewart or Guy Gardner or Kyle Rayner or whichever ones they're going to do. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but it does sound, at least to me, that the Green Lantern and probably the Green Lantern Corps probably does have a place in James Gunn and Peter Safran's overall plan. Remember, David Zaslav has talked about the fact that they're putting together an 8 to 10 year plan and they're mapping out where the DC universe is going to go and what they're going to do. And I would at least take away from what James Gunn is saying here on social media. Again, he didn't say anything explicit. This is all just simply implied. I understand that. But I take the implied message of what he's saying here as meaning, yeah, this 8 to 10 year plan we've got, he's going to be part of it. Now, the question for a lot of people is still going to be, a lot of people who are pre-existing Green Lantern fans is, what Green Lantern are they going to do? You know, when we get the Green Lantern, we heard stories that'll be featuring 2 Green Lanterns, which would be great. Maybe that's what they still do in this new universe. Maybe we're going to have more than just, your main Green Lantern, the one that Ryan Reynolds played, but maybe we'll also get John Stewart, which is like this generation's version of Green Lantern. Maybe we'll get Kyle Rayner. Maybe we'll get Guy Gardner, who is actually a really, really fun character to watch. I think there's a lot of different ways you could do a Guy Gardner on the big screen. That'd be fun. But so anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? It sounds like James Gunn has just kind of sent up the flare in the air to let people know, hey, Green Lantern is a part of our plans. If you believe that, which Green Lantern do you think they're going to do? Do you think they're going to pick one over the other? Do you think they might do multiple Green Lanterns at the same time? Do you think it'll be more like a Green Lantern Corps, which we've heard a lot of talk about, both with HBO and in the movie side? I don't know, a lot of possibilities here. You guys, what do you think about this? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys, before we keep going on here, we want to take a second and thank one of the sponsors of our video because, the Green Lantern Power Ring can do a lot of things, but it can't keep your balls nice and smooth. Here's a message from our good friends at Manscaped. Guys, we want to take a second and thank a sponsor of this video, Manscaped. This holiday season, I'll be giving thanks to our friends over at Manscaped. Everyone loves turkey and stuffing, but you'll be looking like dessert with the help of Manscaped's Performance Package 4.0. The leaders in below-the-waist grooming have blessed you with the ultimate Thanksgiving dinner topic. Tell your in-laws about your new cutting-edge ball trimmer and gift yourself or the man in your life the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Trim up your pumpkins by going to manscaped.com and use the code CAMPEA for free shipping and 20% off. And this year I am so thankful for Manscaped because like most of you guys, I used to use Neanderthalic Dark Age methods to trim my balls. Not anymore, thanks to Manscaped. It's time for all of us to give thanks to Manscaped Performance Package 4.0, or as I like to call it, the perfect package for your package. Inside, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold all your goodies. The heart of the package, their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code CAMPEA at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the promo code CAMPEA. Be thankful this holiday season for the best gift of all from Manscaped. Your balls will thank you. And thank you to our friends at Manscaped for keeping the pumpkins comfortable and, of course, for being a sponsor of the John Campea Show. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. 4, 3, 2. I told you I'm doing the show solo today. Let's move on to main topic number 3, shall we? And our third main topic today is this. You know, one of the pillars of excellence traditionally in the world of entertainment, especially over the past couple of decades, has been Disney animation and Pixar films, right? Pixar, of course, is under the Disney umbrella as well. They are a separate studio. Technically, they function separately, but, you know, they're kind of in the same family. But the last, couple of years, they've put out a couple of films that have struggled. One being Lightyear, which again was a movie that just confused a lot of audiences. Like a lot of audiences just didn't understand what the point of that was. Like, wait a minute, is this a Toy Story movie? Is it not a Toy Story movie? This whole thing about, like, I literally had to watch the movie and see that opening screen of it that says, in whatever year a little kid went to go see a movie, a little kid named Andy went to go see a movie and it became his favorite movie. This is that movie. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I have a feeling they should have probably done that in some of their marketing, but for whatever reason, a lot of people were just confused. They had no idea. Tim Allen put it quite well about that. It's like just nobody knew what this was. Was it a Toy Story movie? Was it not a Toy Story movie? They weren't really clear on it. At any rate, the movie struggled big time, despite the fact that it had an amazing first act. Like the first act of Lightyear, I thought was mind-blowingly good. Unfortunately, after the first act, it kind of went downhill after that. So it was what it was. Also, Encanto, which a lot of people really liked Encanto, but it didn't make a lot of money. Like, it didn't even crack the $300 million mark. It's like 240 or 260, something around that level. So they've struggled a little bit. So when we were at CinemaCon back in April, and they previewed for us this new Disney film, Strange World. I was like, okay, next new Disney. All right, what's this one about? And they showed us a preview for it. And I remember thinking, they just showed us like a 6-minute preview, and I don't know what this movie's about. Like, I don't know what this movie's about at all. And it doesn't actually look very good to me. And if you guys have been watching the show, I've been saying, it's like, I don't know about this Strange World movie. Looks odd. Well, Strange World is now in theaters, and it's already not doing well. It's not doing well at all. It opened with its opening preview night making $800,000. Now, without context, we don't know whether $800,000 is great or not great or any of that kind of stuff. But let me tell you, it's not great. This comes to us from the folks over at Variety who wrote the following. Disney's Strange World, an animated feature about a family of legendary explorers, is having trouble discovering a great deal of treasure. The well-reviewed film, it's all right reviewed. I wouldn't call it a super good reviewed film, but it's getting okay reviews. The well-reviewed film grossed a disappointing $800,000 in Tuesday's previews, which likely means that initial estimate that Strange World would pull in between $30 million and $40 million over the 5-day Thanksgiving holiday may prove to be overly optimistic. So here's the thing. A $30 to $40 million opening weekend would be considered pretty solid. But when they talk about an opening $30 to $40 million weekend, they're not talking about the official weekend. They're talking about the 5-day Thanksgiving. They were hoping that Strange World could pull in $30 to $40 million, not its opening weekend, but in the 5-day Thanksgiving Day holiday. And it looks like they're not going to come anywhere close to that. Anywhere close to that. Let's jump over for a second to the Campea classroom here, shall we? All right. So let's give this to Encanto by comparison, okay? Encanto, on its Thanksgiving Day weekend, Encanto made $40 million. Now, that's the Thanksgiving Day weekend. It made, I think, $27 million on the weekend proper. Okay? So like $40 million is what Encanto made over its full Thanksgiving holiday weekend, the full 5-day weekend. In the literal opening weekend, it made $27 million. Okay? And again, Encanto only went on to make around 260 something in that neighborhood, 260 something million dollars in there somewhere. Okay. Now here's where the comparison puts in. Encanto, on its opening preview night, made $1.5 million. All right. 1.5 million. Strange World made 800,000. This is the big number here. This is the key part here. All right. So to put it into perspective, Disney was projecting that Strange World could make up to $40 million in the 5-day Thanksgiving weekend, right? However, that's how much Encanto made on its 5-day weekend, and it opened on its preview night with $1.5 million. Whereas Strange World made almost half that. Half of that. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the overall 5-day Thanksgiving weekend, that Strange World is going to make half of what Encanto did with and make $20 million. It'll probably make a little bit more than that. But what it does tell us is that $40 million they were hoping to make, they ain't going to make it. They ain't going to make $40 million in the 5-day Thanksgiving Day weekend. They'll probably pull in something like, maybe, I'm going to guess like maybe 25 million over the 5-day weekend and maybe like 17 million on the opening weekend proper. Now, where this becomes particularly disastrous for them is that reportedly, according to Variety, Strange World cost $180 million. Now, there's different reports out there. Some say that Strange World cost anywhere from 135 to 180, and that may be true. Maybe it's lower on that end. So I'm just going by what Variety is reporting right now, and Variety is reporting, at least right now, that Strange World cost $180 million to make. They did not advertise this movie much, so let's be generous. Let's say they only spent like $20 million on advertising. It's a $200 million movie. This movie needs to minimum, make $300 million just to break even. And if you open with like $25 million across the 5-day Thanksgiving Day weekend, guess what? We're looking at the next Disney animation flop. Unfortunately. And that's just what it is, you know? So let's talk for a second about why is Strange World having such a hard time right now, making almost half of what Encanto made, and Encanto had a disappointing box office run. So why is it? I want to propose that there are two reasons why Strange World is struggling. And they're both kind of connected to each other, and neither of these reasons will surprise any of you. Reason number one, they just frickin' didn't market this film. If you look at the traditional ways that Disney, and how much, traditionally speaking, Disney markets their films, they do it aggressively, they do it with a wide reach, and they basically saturate everything with marketing for their film, making sure that there is peak awareness for the projects coming out. If I was not at CinemaCon, I might not even know this movie was a real thing. Actually, I'm looking in the live chat right now. Stewie Linto is saying, honestly, I had no idea it was out. I mean, yeah, why would you? I'm not going to say they hid this film, but they didn't do much to get that awareness saturation that they traditionally do with their stuff. Yeah, a couple of campaigns, a couple of commercials I saw in a week or two leading up to it. I saw a trailer for it in front of Black Panther. That was big. But that was a trailer in front of one of their own movies. I mean, they just basically, it seemed like they didn't feel like this movie was worth the effort. And if you don't think your movie is worth the effort to promote, why should I think the movie is worth the effort to go and see? So my number one reason, and this is in no particular order, but reason number one that I think Strange World is struggling so much at the box office and will end up being their next flop is because they simply didn't market it much. That leads into the second reason why I think Strange World is struggling, is that while they didn't market it much, what marketing they did do, they did poorly. The trailers and commercials for Strange World were a waste of time. none of them, here's what the trailers told me. Here's what the commercials told me. The commercials told me that there are these adventurers who are on an alien planet. And that's it. That's not telling me what the movie's about. That's just telling me where the movie happens. Like, I think back to Toy Story 4, right? I went into that movie without any major spoilers, but the marketing for Toy Story 4 did let me know what this movie was about. That Andy has grown up, and now the new kid that the toys are with is kind of growing up a little bit too and moving on from certain toys to other toys. There's this new character, Forky. Woody is kind of like super hardcore about trying to get this one thing done. Like, I went into Toy Story 4 knowing what the movie was about. You told me what it was about. And it did really well. With what little marketing they have done with Strange World, and I'm finding this more and more. Like, yes, I agree. There is an unfortunate trend in marketing where sometimes in trailers they give the whole movie away. Like, guys in the live chat, help me out with this. What was that one movie? Was it The Invitation, where the young girl gets invited to go overseas with her new boyfriend, and it turns out it's a family of vampires? Was that called The Invitation? I know there's about a 15-second delay, but I'll keep my eye on the live chat. Let me know if that was called The Invitation. Noah's saying, Noah and Jai SIC are both, everybody's saying, yeah, that was it. Okay, so, like, I get it. You get a trailer like The Invitation, which gave the whole movie away. I mean, the trailers for The Invitation walked you through step by step every major plot twist and detail, and even showed you some of the end of the movie. I mean, I get it. There has been a trend where they give too much away. I agree. But swinging the pendulum all the way the other way, and like having a trailer that doesn't even tell you what the movie's about, is just as bad, because you're not going to attract people to go see your film. If you just show them, look at the pretty images, why? You need to tell the audience, you need to sell the audience on why you need to come to the theater and come see this movie. And with this film, I just didn't get that in their marketing. I just didn't get that at all. And it's kind of unfortunate because, again, the reviews have not been great for this movie. The reviews have not been great, but they've been good. The reviews are good. From what I'm gathering, reading, last time I checked on Rotten Tomatoes, it had like a 73% or something like that, which is good. That's good. And I read a lot of the reviews, and all of them are saying like, yeah, it's not fantastic, but it's a nice little movie, right? Even as a nice little movie, it deserved better than this. But again, they didn't decide they wanted to market it, and so a lot of people didn't decide they wanted to go see it. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about the struggles of Strange World at the box office? Did you see this coming? Maybe it's doing worse than you thought. Maybe it's doing better than you thought. Whatever you guys thought about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move into main topic number 4 here, shall we? And our fourth topic today is this. You know, again, going back to, we talked a little bit earlier about Avatar 2's coming out. Of course, James Cameron, he's the king of the world, right? 5 films in history have made over $2 billion. 2 of them are James Cameron's. Actually, 2 of the top 3 box office films of all time are James Cameron films. Number 1, Avatar, and number 3, Titanic. Titanic, which was the number 1 film in the world for a while when it came out, until ultimately Avatar overtook it. So James Cameron for a long time had the number 1 and number 2 films all time. And then Avengers Endgame's up there in the number 2 spot there now. But the one that really made James Cameron, by the way, good Canadian kid, king of the world, was his Titanic film. And of course, Leonardo DiCaprio, who was in Titanic, was already a big name amongst the teens, right? He was on the cover of every teen magazine when that movie came out, all that kind of stuff. So he was already a star. But Titanic is that film that put him on the map for everybody. Yeah, he was the big teen heartthrob at the time, but Titanic made him a global superstar to everyone. Well, an interesting story has come out now. where it looks like Leonardo DiCaprio nearly didn't get this job. James Cameron wanted him for the job, and they were talking about the job, and then James Cameron said, I want you to read, or in essence, do an audition, right? I want you to read for this. I want you to sit down. I want to get a camera. We want to do a screen test. That's what they mean when they say we want you to read for a role. And they wanted him to read opposite of Kate Winslet, who had already been cast in the role. And apparently, Leonardo DiCaprio said, I don't read, like I don't audition. And James Cameron said, well then, have a nice day, because you're not in my movie. Anyway, I want to read, this is a really interesting story to me. And by the way, I'm not on anybody's side in this. I just think this is a really, really interesting story about what almost happened. So bear with me here as I read what we've got in the Variety article here, okay? So hang in there with me as I read this. So it says the following in here. So Leonardo DiCaprio's Titanic audition process wasn't smooth sailing, according to director James Cameron. The Oscar-winning filmmaker participated in a career retrospective video interview for GQ magazine and recalled how Leonardo DiCaprio originally refused to read for the part of Jack opposite Kate Winslet during a screen test. Cameron told the young actor, "You're going to read or you're not going to get the part." I love that in and of itself, but the story itself is actually pretty interesting. So let's keep going on here with the story, because the story about how all this happened is pretty neat. There was a meeting with Leo, and then there was a screen test with Leo, Cameron said. The meeting was funny because I am sitting in my conference room waiting to meet an actor, and I look around and all the women in the entire office are in the meeting. They all wanted to meet Leo. It was hysterical. DiCaprio charmed everyone in his first meeting, but the screen test was a bit more contentious. By the time Cameron set up the screen test for DiCaprio, Winslet was already locked to play the role of Rose. So this is where it gets interesting. He came back a couple of days later, and I had the camera set up to record the video, Cameron said. He didn't know he was going to test. He thought it was just another meeting to meet Kate Winslet. So I said, okay, we're just going to go into the next room and we'll run some lines and I'll video it. And he said, you mean I'm reading? I said, yeah. He said, oh, I don't read. I shook his hand and I said, thanks for coming by. Cameron was ready to turn away DiCaprio right then and there, but the actor came back to him and said, wait. If I don't read, I don't get the part, just like that? Cameron responded, oh yeah, come on. This is a giant movie that is going to take 2 years of my life, and you'll be gone doing 5 other things while I'm doing post-production. So I'm not going to fuck it up by making the wrong decision in casting. So you're going to read or you're not going to get the part. Okay, so we'll come back to this in a second. Let me start with this. Can I just, number one, it is not completely unusual that actors of a certain status make a rule for themselves that they don't audition. And I get it. Like, for instance, one of my favorite actors in the world, Russell Crowe, is one of those actors. Russell Crowe does not audition. He does not read. His attitude is, I've been in enough things. You know what I bring to the table. You know exactly what kind of actor I am. And if you think I'm right for the role, offer me the role. If you're not sure if I'm right for the role or not, go get somebody else. And you know what? I have no problem with that. Because when you're one of these actors of that level, then you're getting things thrown at you all the time. You're getting offers for this, that, and the other thing, and all this kind of stuff. And probably one of the things you don't want to work in your schedule is the hassle of going and auditioning. Now, for everybody else, that's something you got to do. So I don't blame DiCaprio, who at the time, being the number one teen heartthrob in the world, at the time was probably getting tons of offers thrown at him for everything under the sun. And James Cameron just went, you know what? It's just another role to you. But to me, it's a couple of years of my life. And you're going to be on set for a couple of months, and then you're going to go off and do other movies. This is something I'll be working on for years. So I want to 100% make sure I've got the right person for it. So if you don't want to read, that's fine. There's the door, kid. I love that James Cameron did that. Even though I don't blame Leonardo DiCaprio at all for having that rule with himself like some other actors have. That's fine. So this is where this is where something happens that I really, really respect Leonardo DiCaprio for. So after he says, okay, so you're going to read or you're not going to get the part. So then he continues on, he says this. So he comes in and he's like, every ounce of his entire being is just so negative, right up until I said action. And then he turned into Jack, Cameron concluded. Kate just lit up and they played the scene. Dark clouds had opened up and a ray of sun came down and lit up Jack. And I'm like, all right, here's the guy. I'm going to tell you why I love this. This is why I love this so much here. So apparently what Cameron is saying is that once he told DiCaprio, I don't care if you have a rule you don't read. If you don't read for this, you're out. DiCaprio, I guess, was pissed. And the way James Cameron says it here says like every ounce of his entire being was just so negative. So he didn't like it. He wasn't happy. But here's where I respect the hell out of DiCaprio. As soon as Cameron said action, DiCaprio took all that garbage, all that baggage, all of that negativity, all of that diva-ishness. Is that a word? Diva-ishness? I don't know. But the moment James Cameron said action, DiCaprio was a pro. It didn't matter that he didn't like that he had to read. It didn't matter that he felt he was being inconvenienced. It didn't matter that maybe even DiCaprio maybe felt he was being disrespected, whatever. None of that mattered to DiCaprio. The moment the director said action. And he said, and then Cameron says that DiCaprio was then just a pro. All that negativity went away and he did his job. He read the role and him and Kate lit it up. And the result of that was that Titanic became the #1 film of all time. So I got to tell you, I hear the story and I have a lot of respect for both of them as a result of the story. I love the fact that James Cameron stuck to his guns. I love the fact that James Cameron was like, no, this is my movie and I'm going to 100% make sure that this movie is every bit as good as it can possibly be. And that means even if you're some big star teen actor that doesn't like to read, if you don't read, you're out. And I respect that. I think that's great. But I also respect Leonardo DiCaprio for going, fine, you know what, I'm unhappy. And then the moment the work is supposed to start, he took all of his own baggage, he took all of his unhappiness, he took all of his diva-ishness and he put it aside and he did the job. I respect the hell out of people who do that. I do. I respect the hell out of people who do that. I'll tell you a little story. When I was back in the days when I was running AMC and Collider and stuff like that, and we had a fairly big staff for a while. Clearly not everybody, imagine this, clearly not everybody loved every decision or idea I came up with or every decision that I made. Go figure, right? Because, sometimes I don't come up with the gold. That's all right. So here's the thing that I always told people that worked with me. I always said this. Let's make a deal with each other. You can come into my office privately at any time and tell me that you don't like a decision I made or you don't like an idea I have or you don't like a direction I'm doing and lay it out for me. Like just lay it out for me and go at it. I said, this is our deal. You can come to me anytime and tell me that stuff. And then here's the other side of the deal. The other side of the deal is if I think you make sense, I'll change my mind, which happened quite a lot, actually. Christian and Dennis and other guys like that were often able to make me change my mind and do something different. That's what having good people around you does for you. But I said, the other part of the deal is this. If I hear you out and you don't win me over and I still think my way of doing things is the best way in this particular situation, then you agree that when you walk out my office door, you are going to get behind that idea and do everything you can to make it work and get behind it as if it's your own idea, right? So it's a two-way street. You can come to me and tell me everything you think I'm doing wrong, and sometimes I'll go, oh my God, you're right. You're right. Your idea is better. But if I don't do that, then you agree to get fully behind it and do your best to make it work. And that's part of the reason why guys like Christian and myself work so well together, because Christian is a super smart guy. So he would come to me sometimes and say, hey, John, I think you need to rethink this because of this, this, and this. And I go, oh, you know what? You're right. You're right. Or sometimes I go, you know what, Christian? No, I still think this is the best course of action. And then Christian would go, all right, then let's make this work. And I love that because that's what DiCaprio just did in this situation. In this situation, DiCaprio was like, I shouldn't have to read. I'm already this level of a star. I don't want to do this, but I want the role. Okay, fine. Let's do your stupid test read. And then as soon as he says action, he's like, boom, he does the job. He gets into it and he makes it work. And so, yeah, while it does sound, I know, a little diva-like to hear an actor say, oh, I don't want to read for a role or anything. You got to understand, there are other actors who do that and it does work for them. But I just kind of respect the way this all played out. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you make of this story of James Cameron nearly not giving the role to Leonardo DiCaprio because DiCaprio didn't want to read? Whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, we're going to take another quick break here and thank another sponsor of today's show, the wonderful folks over at DraftKings. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, DraftKings. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, should be your go-to when betting on the NFL this holiday season. With things like same-game parlays, easy and fast payouts, player props, and more. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. And check this out. Right now, everyone can earn up to a 100% boost with DraftKings stepped-up same-game parlays. Just go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, place a same-game parlay, and combine multiple bets like which team will win, player props, total points, and more. The more legs you add, the bigger the boost, the bigger your shot to win big. Personally, I like the Rams to pull off a big upset win over the Chiefs next weekend. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code CAMPEA. Place a $5 bet on any NFL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with the code Campea. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. And thank you to our friends at DraftKings for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show. Remember, guys, when you support our sponsors, you're actually supporting us. So if you look down in the description of this video, right near the top, you'll see links to all of our sponsors and the promo codes. And thank you again to DraftKings. All right, guys, with that down, we got a couple more here. So let's get into main topic number 5. And our 5th topic today is this. You know, we were talking about James Gunn a little bit earlier being the new head of DC Films, but let's not forget that the head of DC Films also has 2 Marvel properties still coming out. One is Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and the other is the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, which dropped on Disney Plus last night. Okay. I had a chance to sit down and watch it this morning. And I'm going to be honest, while I really liked the trailer for it, I did. I was quite won over by the trailer. I would not qualify my attitude towards the holiday special as being excited. I wasn't excited for it. Like, for example, when new episodes of Andor are coming out, I'm staying up till midnight to watch the new episode of Andor. I knew Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special was dropping last night at midnight, but I wasn't going to stay up for it. It's probably going to be some throwaway thing, not all that exciting. Now, I heard some people say some good things about it, but I didn't even pay attention to the early reactions. So I sat down this morning. I think, I did some work, and then about 7 a.m., I sat down to watch the holiday special. And I'll tell you what, I loved it. I loved it. And I'll tell you what, at first, I was not digging it when it started. Like, it just felt too Hallmark, Hallmark Network kind of movie, which is exactly what they were going for. But I mean, at first it just felt kind of lame. And then, not to spoil anything, but right at the beginning of the special, there's an alien band that plays a song and they start playing. I'm like, oh, this is rough. This is rough. I don't know if this is going to be any good. But about halfway through the song, they start making jokes and lines about elves wanting to stab out Santa's eyes. And I don't know what it was, but it was about by the end of that opening song, by the end of that, and it wasn't the opening song, but by the end of that song that plays in the first part of the special, I was like, okay, maybe. But once they got to the part where it was basically, Mantis and Drax going on their mission, which from the trailers, their mission was to go and get Kevin Bacon, the hero Kevin Bacon, because Star-Lord Peter Quill is feeling down and they want to give him a great Christmas, right? And they're going to go get Kevin Bacon and bring him in. By the time they got to that, I got completely on board with it, because remember, you got to try to tune your brain right from the beginning that this is meant to be in the spirit of a Hallmark holiday special, right? With all the cringiness and all the nonsensical things that happen into it. But can you infuse that with fun, some things that are uniquely MCU, and can you make a good holiday? Can you make a good Christmas special? At the end of the day, that's the question. Can you make a good Christmas special? And I was starting to get into it. I was really starting to feel it. And then they actually got to Kevin Bacon's house. Again, this is something that was in the trailer, so I'm not giving anything away. By the time they get to Kevin Bacon's house, I was honestly sitting there wondering, is this my favorite Christmas special of all time? And I'll tell you what else, my friends, my filthy, filthy friends. I shed a tear. I shed a tear at the end of this thing. Contrived, absolutely. It's all the things that a lot of Christmas specials are. Absolutely it is. But when they get to the end of this movie, I'm like sitting there, I realized, I became self-aware for a second, because I'm laying on that couch, on the couch in the Campea Theater here. And I became self-aware. I realized my grin was touching my ears. And I realized I had a little tear. I had a little tear forming in the corner of my eye that started to run down. I'm like, am I crying? I mean, I wasn't that crying, but I realized I'm sitting there watching it, grinning from ear to ear. It was so warm. It was so charming. And it built up a little tear in my eye. And I freaking loved this thing. This thing is more than special, all right? It's more than special. What I thought was going to be, listen, I admit it, I thought this was going to be a throwaway little piece of content that they tossed up on Disney+. I honestly did. Even though I liked the trailer, even though I love James Gunn, I admit that I thought this was going to be some throwaway piece of content. I really did. If I'm being honest, I really did. I mean, I was crossing my fingers and hoping for the best. Absolutely. I was hoping for the best. I wanted it to be great. I wanted to like it. But deep down, I didn't really think. And by the time it ended, I'm sitting back and I'm going, because my favorite Christmas holiday special is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. There, now you know a little more something about me. And if you don't like that, fuck off. But my favorite Christmas special, I think, of all time is Rudolph, maybe that Frosty special. Like those are very close. But yeah, Rudolph is my favorite one. And I'm sitting there going, this thing I thought was going to be a throwaway piece of garbage content that they put on there. And I'm sitting here thinking, do I like this more than Rudolph? I think I like this more than Rudolph. Like, Anne's been out all day. She hasn't watched this yet. I can't wait to end the show today to grab Anne and say, sit down and watch this, because I know she's going to love it. Anne's going to love it. She hasn't watched it yet, but I absolutely know she's going to completely love this thing. And watch very closely. I'm going to spoil one little detail for you, and it's nothing to do with the story. It's something that's in the background you got to look for. So I'm just going to tell you about this. If you don't want to hear about this, plug your ears for a second. But it's a little detail. But as Drax and Mantis are walking through Hollywood, which you see in the trailer, they're walking through Hollywood. If you notice in the background, there's a big billboard for a Kingo Christmas with Kumail Nanjiani on it, his character from Eternals. A Kingo Christmas. When I saw that, I just about... Kevin Bacon, by the way, is awesome in this thing. Kevin Bacon is absolutely terrific in this thing. I loved him in this. And again, and there's actually, you know what? There's a significant MCU defining piece of information we find out in this special that makes sense. And I'm like, oh yeah. And again, it just created such a warm, wonderful feeling. It was a true Christmas special. I fucking love the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. Me, who's been so, pessimistic about it. Me, who thought, who cares? I never talked about this thing except for when they dropped the trailer. That's it. I've never talked about it. I've never thought it was going to be important. I never thought anything about it. And I watched this thing and I freaking love it. James Gunn, you freaking mad genius, you did it again. I absolutely love it. So anyway, guys, question is for you. Did you have a chance to see the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special? If so, what did you think about it? Maybe you just thought it was just purely cringe. I get that. Maybe you thought it was absolutely delightful. Maybe you're like me and you're thinking this is one of the best holiday specials I think that has ever been made. I don't know. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to our sixth main thing today. And our sixth main thing today is our Mint Mobile hotline question of the day. You guys know we now have a Mint Mobile hotline. You can call in your question and maybe you'll get lucky enough to hear your voice on the show. So let's go over and check out our hotline question today.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Salazar. I'm a long-time listener ever since the AMC days. Quick question. When Tony Stark died, all the Avengers and all the superheroes from all the Marvel movies showed up to his funeral, but nobody was at T'Challa's funeral. Do you know the reason behind that? Thanks.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jonathan, for calling that in. And yeah, this is a question that continues to kind of float around a lot that I still see a lot of people asking and a lot of people writing in on the comment section of the videos, writing to me directly, sending stuff to me on social media, is the big question. Why at T'Challa's funeral were none of the Avengers there? I mean, you're right. At Tony's funeral, like everybody was there. Everybody was in the movie. And even some people who weren't in the movie, they even had there. Even some people, not a lot of them, but even some of the characters that were not in Endgame, and most of them were, but even the ones that weren't in Endgame, they had them there at Tony's funeral. So how come all of them show up at Tony's funeral and none of them show up to T'Challa's funeral? It's a fair question. It's a good question. It's a fair question. I believe there are two reasons why we didn't see any other MCU characters at T'Challa's funeral. One is in movie, one is outside of movie, okay? So we'll start with the in-movie reason. The in-movie reason, in the MCU universe reason, I think the main culprit about why it's understandable that we didn't see any other MCU characters there is the fact that the Wakanda is still a closed country. Yes, at the end of Black Panther, T'Challa was setting up outreach centers and they were going to be more open with the world and all that kind of stuff. They would go out to the world, right? By the end of Black Panther, T'Challa had decided that Wakanda was going to reach out more to the world. But that didn't mean they were opening the doors and letting people into Wakanda, right? Because when we get into Black Panther 2, we notice the shields are still up around the country. The camouflage stuff is still set up around the country and all that kind of stuff. It is still a closed nation. They're still very wary of outsiders. That kind of change is going to take years and years and years and years and years and years and years to do. So it made sense within the movie itself that they didn't just let everybody come into Wakanda, right? Like, it's a closed ceremony. This was our king. This was our king. Like, you knew him for a little bit. He's been with us his entire life. And they closed it off. Now, I still think that there was an argument to be made about letting Bucky in for the funeral, because Bucky lived amongst them and lived in Wakanda for a long time and is one of the heroes in the battle at Infinity War. So, I mean, it would have made sense if Bucky could have been there, but they didn't, and that's fine. As far as all the rest of them in the movie, it makes sense because it's still a closed country. Now, outside of the movie, I think there is still a good reason why they weren't letting anybody, why nobody had been there. And that is this. It's because nobody else was in the movie. Like, if you had Hawkeye in the movie, and you had Captain Marvel in the movie, and you had Ant-Man in the movie, and you had they were there, they were already in the movie, all these actors were in the movie, then to pull them together to do a shot of a funeral scene, that's fairly easy to do, no problem. But the reality is, none of them were. None of them were there. None of them were in the movie. Nobody else was there. So from a storyline point of view in the movie, Wakanda's still a closed nation. There's that. Outside the movie, from a practical point of view, none of those actors were there. And what are you going to do? Are you going to spend millions of dollars in fees to pay these actors for a 1-day, 2-day thing where they show up and just record a funeral scene? Did the movie need it? Did the movie need that? It didn't. That funeral scene, I'll bring this up again. That funeral scene was so great. I mean, I didn't love Black Panther Wakanda Forever, but I liked it. I did. But that funeral scene was so well shot, so well put together. The emotion was real. It is one of the best, not the best part of the movie, but it was one of the best, most moving, emotional parts of the movie was that funeral scene. Did it need to have a camera flash up for a second? You see Doctor Strange standing there and you see Hawkeye standing there and see, I mean, did it need it? I propose it didn't. Could they have done it? I suppose, but did it have to be there? And honestly, I think it would have taken some attention away from the nation of Wakanda. And after all, the name of this movie was Wakanda Forever. So you kept the focus on Wakanda and you keep the focus on those characters, and on that level, I thought it worked, and I thought it worked really, really, really well. At least for me, it did. So anyway, guys, that's my thoughts on why we didn't see any of the other Avengers at it. I thought there was an in-story reason and an out-of-story reason. So at the end of the day, I didn't find any of their absences to be jarring at all. I thought it worked really well within the movie the way it was. How do you guys feel about it? Do you think it was a big missed opportunity to have like some Avengers characters at the funeral? Do you think it's absolutely necessary that they've kept them out? Are you somewhere in between? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, we are now going to go over and take your live comments and questions. The super chats have been open. We're going to be closing off and turning the super chats off in just a couple of seconds here because they're already pretty full up, but we'll leave them open for a couple more seconds. And we're going to hear about your thoughts, theories, opinions, and questions in just a second, though, because before we do, we want to take another moment and thank the main sponsor of the John Campea Show, my mobile service provider, Ryan Reynolds' Mint Mobile. Guys, we want to thank a sponsor of today's video, Mint Mobile. This holiday season, the best deal in wireless can only be found at Mint Mobile. Right now, when you switch to Mint Mobile and buy any 3-month plan, you'll get another 3 months free. As the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you order and activate from home with eSIM while saving tons on phone plans starting at just $15 a month. Guys, you know I've been using Mint Mobile long before this holiday deal, and I have to say, it is the perfect time to switch. Since I switched to Mint Mobile, I've been spending 1/3 of what I used to spend on my mobile service with the other big name company. And with this buy 3 months, get 3 months free, not only is it a great choice for you, but it makes great gifts for the people you love. Mint Mobile's best offer of the year is here. By going online only and with eSIM and eliminating the traditional costs of retail, Mint Mobile passes those significant savings on to you. All of their plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You use use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and switch easily and effortlessly with eSIM. Or if you need a new device, for a limited time, get 6 months of free service when you buy a selected device and plan. So guys, for a limited time, buy any 3-month Mint Mobile plan and get 3 more months free by going to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. And thank you to Mint Mobile for literally chopping my monthly cell phone bill down to 1/3 of what I used to be paying. Guys, you absolutely have to go check out Mint Mobile. Go to mintmobile.com/Campea and check them out today. And thank you again to Mint Mobile for sponsoring the John Campea Show. All right, guys. With all that, let's spend the rest of our day here taking your live comments and questions, shall we? You guys have been sending in. The super chats are now closed. We've got a lot of questions in, probably more than I should have taken. But let's get on over to it and start hearing from what you guys have to say, shall we? We're going to start off here with Quality Not Included, who writes, 1 of 2. I saw RIPD 2. Whew. Really? Why? Anyway, I saw RIPD 2, better than 1, that's not hard, cheaper budget, but a cheesy, fun time with tons of heart, a prequel Jeffrey Donovan, Burn Notice, playing Jeff Bridges' character like a solid fantasy TV pilot from the 90s, like Briscoe Country Jr. and Xena Warrior Princess. No shock if Netflix announces a show soon. Well, that's interesting to hear. Listen, that was one of the, I remember when we covered that story, that out of nowhere, they announced that a RIPD 2, which of course, RIPD, the first one, that was Ryan Reynolds and Jeff Bridges. Truly a terrible movie. Just an awful, awful movie. I you know me, I love me some Ryan Reynolds for many, many reasons. But yeah, that was not good, that movie. So anyway, it shocked a lot of people and caught everybody surprised when they announced that not only were they going to make an RIPD 2, they already made it. They made it in secret and it was done. Of course, it doesn't have Jeff Bridges. It doesn't have Ryan Reynolds in it. But hey, man, you're the only person I know who saw it, but you liked it. And so thanks for sharing your thoughts with us, Quality. Okay, next up. Jake Lockley writes, why do you love movies? Well, I'm not going to go into the whole spiel of it again because that's like a 15-minute thing. But if you go on YouTube and search for why movies matter, if you search John Campea, why movies matter. Yeah, actually, so if you go, let's see if I can bring this up here. If you go and search, just search the search term John Campea, why movies matter, you're going to come across this video that says why movies matter. It's a keynote address I did at the big AMC leadership convention in, where was it? It was in Atlanta, Georgia. And it's about 7 minutes long. Go and check that out. And I explained that all there. All right. Thanks for writing in, man. Next up, we have James Hoffman, who writes, I really enjoyed the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. It was just delightful. Feel good, funny, and heartwarming. Everything you want a holiday special to be. Dude, James, I am shocked. I am shocked how much I love this thing. I thought it was everything you just said it was. It was charming. It was funny. It was feel good. It was heartwarming. It mixed in live action with animation. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I'm totally shocked. I loved it so much, James. I'm glad you enjoyed it too, man. Next up, Remember Bulldog writes, I watched the Guardians of the Galaxy special. Absolutely loved it. It was so funny and charming. I love Mantis's character in this. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Mantis has had a couple of interesting lines here and there in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but she's never been what I call a really interesting character. The holiday special, she's a legit character now. They do a lot with her character. They give her a bunch more dimensions to her. I adored her in this. What's the actress's name? Palm Clementif or something like that. I got to remember if that's right or not. Anyway, it's fantastic. She's wonderful in it. I absolutely loved it. All right. Next up, we've got, that was Remmer. Thanks, Remmer. KC Mack writes, saw both Fablemans and Glass Onion the other day. I loved both films, but I feel like I really love the Fablemans more. Have you seen Fablemans yet? No, because it wasn't open anywhere near me for a while. It is now open near us. Ann and I think we're going to go see it tonight. I think we're doing a double feature tonight of Devotion and Fablemans because we already got Glass Onion out of the way. We got a couple of the others out of the way, but we still haven't seen Fablemans. looking forward to doing that tonight. Of course, it's been sweeping up on the festival circuit. It's won a lot of awards on the festival. A lot of people saying it's a front runner for Best Picture right now. So I'm glad you liked it, Casey. I haven't seen it yet myself, but hopefully I'll be able to see that tonight. All right. Next up, Clay Woodley writes, which movie do you think will have the bigger box office, Fast 10 or Mission Impossible 7? Right now, I'm leaning towards Mission Impossible 7. I will agree. I think Mission Impossible 7 will have the bigger box office. Because, listen, you know me. I'm a huge Vin Diesel fan. I'm a Vin Diesel nut. I love the guy. And I became, after Fast and the Furious 3, after that, I became a big fan of the Fast and Furious franchise, like 4, 5, 6, 7. I even really like 8. I know a bunch of people don't, but I even really liked 8. 9 was garbage. Like 9 was awful. And I think a lot of people recognize that it was awful. If you liked it and if you watched it and you liked it, that's great. I'm not trying to besmirch you or take anything away from your enjoyment of it. That's awesome if you liked it. But I was tremendously disappointed by it. I thought it was absolute garbage. And so I think that's going to reflect in the box office of 10. So I think we're looking at Mission Impossible 7 doing better, Clay. All right, Jay Master writes, yesterday on Thanksgiving, I watched Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings twice. Nice. It's a really good movie and one of the best MCU movies ever, but the bus fight scene is phenomenal. I'll tell you what, when I bring people into the John Campea Theater, you can't tell how big this is, but the theater room is great. I'm really, really happy. I've always wanted a theater room. And since we don't do the John Campea Show in here anymore in my garage, we converted it into a little theater room. Thank you to Hisense for sending me a free short throw digital projector. I wouldn't have been able to pay for it myself. Let's see if you can see it. Yeah, there it is right there. Right there. That's the short throw projector. I love it. And I've got a Sonos surround sound system in here. But anyway, the reason I bring all that up is because when I bring people over or into the theater room to show them the theater room, the scene I always put on, click, is the bus fight scene in Shang-Chi. That's the scene I put on because the action's incredible. The sound design of it is incredible. The music that plays with it is incredible. The name of the song is, I think it's DJ Snake's Run It. I think that's the name of the song that plays during that fight scene. It's just awesome. So yeah, that's my go-to when I'm in the theater room here. All right. Thanks for that, J Master. Next up, J Master also writes in, I watched the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special last night at midnight, and I really love it. Also, it was really emotional. The final scene before the credits really hit me hard. I was shocked, Jay. I was shocked. I didn't even realize it until I had that moment of self-awareness where I realized my grin was like this, and I had a tear coming down the side of my eyes. I'm like, am I crying? I couldn't believe how good it was. Like once you get past that early cringiness of getting your brain adjusted that this is meant to be a Hallmark Christmas special kind of spoof, once your brain tunes to that, it just overwhelms you, right? It's so charming and so delightful. I loved it. I'm glad you liked it too, Jay. All right. Next up, Jacob Leaf sends in like a $20 super chat. Thank you, Jacob, for supporting us on that level, man. Jacob writes, I saw Strange World on Wednesday and I liked it. I love the retro, futurist, pulp sci-fi aesthetic. The voice acting and animation were all very good, but it doesn't do anything exceptionally well. Good, but not great. You know what, Jacob? I've heard that. Like I went through and I did a lot of reading on Rotten Tomatoes through a bunch of the critics. And they were all basically saying the same thing. Like they were like, hey, this is good. I mean, it's not great, but it's good. It's nice. I just wish they had shown a little bit more faith in this movie and gave it, number one, a proper marketing campaign. And then number two, had the courtesy to tell the audience what the movie was about. Because they didn't tell us what it was about. They just told us what the context was. Context is, okay, there's this group of adventurers on an alien planet. And the alien planet's weird. Okay, well, that's the context. What's the story? What's the movie about? You don't have to give everything away like The Invitation did, but just, tell me what it's about. That's not unreasonable, is it? Anyway, it's really unfortunate that it doesn't look like a lot of people went, but I'm glad you saw it and I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. Thanks for sharing your experience with it, Jacob. And again, thank you for supporting us on that level, man. All right, next up, CJ Rebirth writes, Strange World was fun and looked better in 3D. It is an adventurous father-son story, has laughs and great music. It also has Disney's new 100 Years intro. Oh, that's interesting. See, I'd be interested in checking that out. I'd be interested to seeing what that looks like and what that could be. And again, CJ, that's the general consensus I'm hearing from people that, hey, it's actually pretty good. It's a pretty good little movie, which just confounds me more about if it is a good movie like most people are saying, why not throw some support behind it? Why not market it properly? Like, I just don't know what they're thinking at this point. Then again, I don't know what the morons over at Disney are thinking half the time these days. I just don't know. Anyway, all right. Next up, Daldar writes, finally saw Black Panther. I thought it was amazing. The hate it's getting is so exaggerated and unfair to the people who worked really hard on it. Well, I mean, here's the thing, Daldar. Every movie that you hate, people worked really hard on, right? So you don't go there about, well, it's disrespectful to criticize a movie because that's people worked really hard on it. True, but every movie that you've not liked, people have worked really hard on. So just keep that in mind. That being said, I've got my own criticisms about the movie. I did not love it. I mean, I liked it. I walked out having enjoyed myself, right? There are certain things they did really, really well. I thought Namor was great, even though he made some really stupid character decisions in it that made no sense to me whatsoever. But the character of Namor, the world of Talocan, the underworld kingdom of Talocan, the whole mythology about all that, the funeral scene. I mean, M'Baku was fantastic, and there's a lot of things in Wakanda Forever that I quite liked, but there was also a lot of things that I thought didn't work and could have or should have been done much better. And certain creative decisions that I didn't like, but that's fine. There's a lot of movies that make creative decisions that I wouldn't have made, but they find a way to make it work, and I end up enjoying it. There were some creative decisions they made in this movie that I didn't like, but they didn't make work, in my opinion. That's it. Again, I'm not trashing on the movie. I liked it. To me, in a thumbs up or a thumbs down world, Wakanda Forever is a thumbs up movie. I enjoyed it, but I see where the criticism comes from. And I recognize some of some of it is just your racist knuckle dragging fucking losers out there, the misogynistic anti-women losers and whatever, fuck them. It doesn't matter. But there's a lot of criticism about the movie from a quality point of view, from a storytelling point of view, from creative decisions point of view. And I recognize those, and I agree with a lot of them. Even if I still ended up enjoying the movie myself, I personally agree with a lot of what those criticisms are. All right, anyway. Thanks for that, man. I appreciate you giving me your input there, Dildar. All right, next up. Jim1 writes, Universal is completely embarrassing Disney / Pixar at the moment, with Minions, Sing 2, and The Bad Guys all doing well. Mario and Puss in Boots still to come. I mean, yeah, when you look at it, you think about it, the latest Minions movie, which I'll be honest with you, didn't even look that good. It almost made $1 billion. And Sing 2, I need to go over here and check this. Hold a second. Sing 2 box office. I know it did pretty okay. I think it made in the $400 million range. Yeah, there it is. Sing 2 made $407 million. Which, that's pretty good. And how did I didn't think the Bad Guys did all that well. How did they do? The Bad Guys. How did the Bad Guys do? Let's see here. The Bad Guys did 250, which is roughly Encanto numbers. And Encanto was great. Hold a second. Encanto. Because I think Encanto was right around 250 as well. Yeah, 256. That's not great, and neither is it for the Bad Guys. But with Minions making nearly $1 billion. And again, I wouldn't say that they're at all embarrassing Disney Pixar because Minions, Sing 2, and The Bad Guys, none of them are as good as Turning Red. None of them are as good as Soul. And even though I didn't think Luca was super fantastic, I think Luca was better than Minions, Sing 2, or The Bad Guys. So I wouldn't say they're embarrassing, but they're embarrassing them at the box office. That's for sure. They're absolutely embarrassing them at the box office. No doubt. They're doing a lot better. They're finding a way to market those movies. They're finding how to pluck those strings with the audience to get them to come to the theaters. And that's something Disney hasn't done lately, which is they got to turn that around, man. They absolutely do. All right. Thanks for that, Jim. Next up, Dowdar also writes, during his time as CEO, or when he finds a new one, Iger needs to do something for the animation department. Chapek has been treating animation like crap. Absolutely. And here's the thing, he will. Bob Iger adores the animation aspect, the animation layer of Disney. He always has. He's the one who bought Pixar in the first place to bring them into the Disney fold. So you know they're going to be getting a lot more respect now that Bob Iger's there. And I'm sure that's going to be put in there for whoever he picks as the next CEO. All right, next up, Jesse the Savage writes, just about finished season 3 of Yellowstone. Like, holy cow, going into season 4 right now. I'm telling you, man, there is a reason why I think Yellowstone is the best show on TV right now. All due respect to Succession, which is amazing and fantastic. All due respect to Andor, which is mind-blowingly good. But yeah, man, I'm glad you're on board with that, because to me, I think Yellowstone's the best show on TV. I'm loving it. All right. South Texas Shark writes, are you going to buy anything this Black Friday? Ann and I are going to go Black Friday shopping. We don't have anything in mind right now. But once I'm done the show today, and after I show her the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, we're going to go Black Friday shopping. So I don't know. I don't have anything particular that I need right now, but I'm going to go and see what kind of deals they got. All right. CJ Rebirth writes, Genie, you're free. Happy 30th anniversary to Aladdin. Yeah, I believe this week is Aladdin's 30th anniversary, which means that on Monday's Rewind segment, we should be talking about Aladdin, because we're now going to do 10, 20, and 30-year anniversaries, because you guys said you guys want us to include 30-year anniversaries in Rewind, so we're going to start including that. That means we should be talking about Aladdin this week. All right. Let's see here. That was CJ. Next up is Al Renshaw, who writes, Spirited was much better than I thought it would be. Funny, had heart, and tackled themes like suicide when they got the Ghost of Christmas Future. Yeah, listen, the first couple of things I heard about Spirited were not so good, but now everybody else I've heard talk about Spirited says it's really good. Ann and I will not watch it. We will not watch this until Christmas time comes around. Now, I know a lot of you are going to say, but John, Guardians of the Galaxy holiday specials, a Christmas thing, and you watched that? Yeah, I did, but honestly, I wouldn't have if it wasn't for the fact that it was an MCU thing, and our audience loves talking about MCU. I knew I had to talk about it immediately. So yes, for that. But for Spirited, Anne is actually very excited about it, but she wants to wait until it's at least December, right? She doesn't want to watch a lot of holiday stuff pre-December, so I'm holding off, but I'm hearing a lot of more good things coming out about it, Al. All right. Next up, and no MJ Joseph 8 in live chat, Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. I'm sorry to break it to a lot of you. Even Bruce Willis says Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. So it's now you might say the director says it is. Well, the director's wrong. I'll say it. The director's wrong. Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. It's a movie that happens at Christmas time, but Christmas has nothing to do with the movie. It's not a Christmas movie. We're going to have this debate every year. All right. Yo Mama's Llama writes, Is there an easy way to differentiate problems that were caused by the script versus the director? D. Chow gets crap for Kenobi, but the writing was 90% bad. I mean, it's nearly impossible to differentiate where did the problem happen with the script and where did the problem happen with the direction? Because you need to have the script in your hands and be able to actually read the script, right? Without knowing really what came from the director and what came from the script. Look, at the end of the day, the director is ultimately responsible for what ends up on the screen. Now, yeah, a director's job is made a hell of a lot more difficult when you have a bad script to start with, but it is still your job. You got to do the best you can with it and change it where you need to, make something happen. I don't know. But in trying to differentiate between where was the problem the script and where was the problem the director, it's impossible to say unless you have the script in your hands. You can actually read the script, unfortunately. And yeah, a lot went wrong with Obi-Wan. Unfortunately, a lot went wrong with that show. All right. Biscuits and Gravy, one of my favorite things, writes, the idea of bringing in someone to run Disney Plus to alleviate Kevin Feige being overworked. I think Kevin, the android, should delegate Nate Moore to run D2 to have cohesiveness, and he knows what Kevin wants overall. That's the problem, though. As long as it's one overall connected universe, Kevin ultimately is in charge of all of it. I mean, he's going to have lieutenants that look after certain things, but ultimately it all comes down to Kevin. And what happens when Kevin isn't completely hands-on with a project? Well, we saw what happens. Phase 4 has been subpar by MCU standards. Like, whether you are totally great with the Phase 4 projects or totally not, I think everybody agrees, at least the vast majority of people agrees, that Phase 4, even if you think it was really good, that Phase 4 was probably the weakest of the phases, right? Like, Phase 1 was awesome, Phase 2 was awesome, Phase 3 was awesome, and Phase 4 has been good, but it's been the weakest. Actually, you know what? I say that, but let me ask you guys in a poll. I'm going to put up a poll for those of you guys watching live, and I'm just going to ask a simple question. Was Phase 4 of MCU the weakest? I'm not asking you if you thought it sucked. I'm not asking you if you thought Phase 4 was great. I'm simply asking, yes or no, was Phase 4 the weakest? Even if you still thought it was really good, do you think it was weaker than Phases 1, 2, and 3? I think it was. I've now, for those of you guys watching live, I've put that up as a poll question in the live chat. And right now we've got 220 people have already voted. 81% are saying yes, it's the weakest. 19% are saying no. So we'll see if that number changes. But yeah, I think it's fairly safe to say that generally speaking, most people found Phase 4 to be the weakest. We now have 340 people have voted, and it's still 81% say yes, Phase 4 was the weakest. 19% are saying no, it wasn't the weakest. So yeah, I mean, it's been the weakest one. And I think that's because Kevin Feige's been stretched too thin. But at the end of the day, I think they need to cut back on how much they're doing. I don't think the answer is finding somebody else to run a different division. All of a sudden, you've got two different Marvels. I think they need to cut back a little bit on how much they're trying to produce. Anyway, that's just me. By the way, I'm going to close off the poll now at 418 votes. And 80% now are saying yes, Phase 4 is the weakest. 20% are saying no, it wasn't. So thank you guys for participating in our little poll. All right, let's move on here. Daldar writes, Highlander, Iger versus Chapek. There can be only one Bob. You know, and it's really unfortunate. I think Bob Chapek could have been a good CEO of Disney if he just followed the DNA of what the company was already. He tried to reinvent the wheel. And instead, all the wheels fell off. And it's really unfortunate at the end of the day. All right. Next up, Sam Fisher writes, 2 of 2, which I did not see any 1 of 2, Sam. Oh, there's 1 of 2. Okay, came in out of order. All right. Sam Fisher writes, this two-parter keeps getting messed up. But for me, the saddest thing about JDF, the Power Ranger, dying to me is that the day before on Facebook, I saw a video of him at a con where he saw somebody with a tattoo of his new character, the White Dragon, from his prison project for the first time. Oh, that's so unfortunate. I mean, but that was one of the things about Jason, right? Like, I'm not a huge Power Rangers guy by any stretch, but Jason, he was the face of that franchise for decades to people. Like, when a lot of people thought of Power Rangers, they thought of him. They'd see his face in their heads. And he was always made himself so available to audiences and to fans and going to the conventions. And everybody I ever talked to who had an interaction with him all said really, really positive things about their interaction with him. And so much to be sad about there, man. So much to be sad about there. All right, next up. Rod McDonald writes, 1 of 2. I'm not sure which Knives Out movie I like more. I prefer the mystery in Glass Onion, but the characters in Knives Out. Did Rob get a second one in? Okay, I can't spend my time looking around for it, so I'll try to keep that in mind. Yeah, I'm also like, I think I like Glass Onion even more than the first Knives Out, but I need a little bit of separation between me and the movie to know for sure. But all I know is this. I thought Glass Onion was fantastic, man. I really enjoyed it. And so much so that I I might end up thinking it's better than the first one. And I love the first one. Glad you liked it, Rob. Guillaume Labelle writes, went to see Glass Onion last night. Amazing. Loved it almost as much as the first one. Lots of twists and turns. Craig as Blanc is phenomenal. I'll tell you what, Guillaume, one of the things I said on the show the other day was that in as much as Daniel Craig is my favorite James Bond, I need one or two more movies of him as Inspector Blanc, but I might like him as Inspector Blanc even more. Like, again, I'm not willing to say that outright at this point. Like, you need a few more movies, more than just two, but I think he's great as the Inspector. I really do. All right, next up, Al Renshaw writes, can't go wrong with Kevin Bacon. Funny in the trailer. I tell you what, he's funny in the trailer. He's even better in the movie, Al. You gotta watch this holiday special. It's so good. All right, the Swifties writes, Glass Onion was so much fun. It kind of went in a direction that I wasn't expecting. There were a lot of funny moments, especially from Ed Norton. Yeah, Ed Norton was great, and there were great cameos in it. Everybody in this movie was so good. There was not a weak link. I thought Kate Hudson was incredible. I just thought they were all great, man. All right, My Comic Planet writes, John, what do you think about Devotion? We were supposed to see it the other night, didn't see it. We're going to see it tonight, so I'll let you guys know once I get a chance to check it out. All right, Suthius writes, 1, enjoyed this special. I did too, man. 2, love Mantis. I do too now. 3, because of the details shown and said, I'm now more convinced that this, along with Werewolf by Night, both take place in different universes. Am I crazy? I don't know. I would say after watching the holiday special, I'm actually more convinced it does take place in the same universe. The Kingo poster was one of the giveaways. Because there's a theory going around out there that maybe all the Phase 4 movies take place in different realities. And that's what we're building up to in the MCU. And that very well could be. I mean, there are strong arguments to be made for that. It very well could be. I lean towards it not being that, but I can have my mind change. But the holiday special for me kind of made me think it was all in the same universe. But see for yourself. Anyway, I loved it too, Suthius. I'm glad you liked it, man. All right. Next up, Cole writes, do you think James Cameron pulls a Tom Cruise and demands Avatar 2 stay off streaming for a while? Well, here's the thing. I mean, James Cameron doesn't have that authority. He can demand anything he wants, but Disney doesn't have to do anything that they don't want to do. It'll all be about how good are its legs. Because if the legs of Avatar 2 have the sort of legs that the first Avatar did, and we don't know that it will, but if it does, Disney would be damn fools to pull it out of the theaters after 45 days, right? So we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure Disney is going to evaluate it as it goes. If it's really not making much money anymore after 45 days, they'll probably pull it and then put it up on Disney streaming, Disney Plus, shortly thereafter. But if it's still making like $20 million a weekend, by the time 45 days are up, they'll keep it in the theaters longer. So we'll see how it goes. But unfortunately, for James Cameron at any rate, James Cameron's not in a position that he can demand anything. Disney gets to call the shots. All right. Next up, Guillaume writes, before Glass Onion, the final trailer for Avatar played, but all pink/green tainted. Really? Looked like Avatar on shrooms, probably a corrupted file. Oh, that's unfortunate. I mean, every once in a while, I'm sure they play the wrong trailers. I mean, I've been in a movie theater where they start playing the wrong movie. Like, that's happened. But I've never seen anything with that big of a technical issue. That's interesting, Guillaume. Do me a favor. If any of the rest of you have come across that issue, that you saw a trailer for Glass Onion or the trailer for Avatar and it was all the colors were all messed up, let me know if that was the case for you too, because I've never heard of that happening before. Thanks for letting me know, Guillaume. Collins E. writes, I think it's ridiculous that Netflix isn't reporting the box office for Glass Onion. From a deadline estimate, it's going to be really well, though. The numbers will be reported. The way box office numbers work is that the movie theaters all report their box office. The theater chains and the movie theaters, they all report their daily stuff to a company called Rentrak. I believe it's Rentrak. There might be a C in there, but I think it's a K. And then Rentrak disseminates the information, stuff like that. So I don't know that Netflix can stop the reporting of the box office numbers. Now, Bobby Jackson in the live chat is saying, I saw an article saying that Netflix won't be reporting their numbers as well. I just, see, that's interesting, because if that's true, I'm going to be a little bit surprised, because Netflix, the studios aren't the one who report the numbers. Rentrack reports the numbers, and the movie theaters send their reports to Rentrack. So I think this report that you guys are reading might be right, and maybe I'm wrong about this. We'll find out in a couple of days, but I do believe we're going to get a number, because Rentrack is going to get the numbers from the theaters. So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I'll be surprised if we don't get it. I think we will get those numbers. Anyway, thanks for that, man. All right, next up. That was Collins E. Alex Von Gollum writes, a remarkable scene in Andor's episode 11 was the scene where B2 EMO, I don't want to be alone, I want Marva. B2 EMO's characterization in Andor was excellent. I remember we were talking about that scene in the John Campea Show office, and how many people wrote in, and we were talking, it's like, who would have ever thought that a droid would have dialogue, a droid in a Star Wars thing would have dialogue that would make you cry? Because I had a lot of people, like, because that was an emotional moment. I mean, yeah, everybody's heart broke when, why am I freezing on the android in K2SO? When K2SO dies in Rogue One, like, everybody's like, oh no, K2SO. But when that little robot is talking about his heart breaking because Marva wasn't, oh, come on. Come on. That had to move you. That had to move you at least a little bit. I thought that was really well done. All right. Anyway, thanks for that, Alex. Next up, My Comic Planet writes, Andor performing so poorly has me worried about Mandalorian Season 3. Should we just assume those fans will just come back and all will be well with Star Wars? Well, here's the thing, though. I was reading a thing the other day that Andor has not performed badly. It just has not been performing to the numbers of Obi-Wan and Mandalorian. And Obi-Wan had a huge audience. It was crap. I mean, it wasn't crap, but it wasn't very good. But it had a huge audience because Obi-Wan is a beloved character, a generational beloved character. Everybody was waiting for the return of Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi. I know I was excited about it. And all that kind of stuff. Now, it hasn't delivered to those numbers, but those numbers were stupid high. Mandalorian and Obi-Wan's, and those numbers are stupid, stupid high. Take those out of it. Andor's numbers are quite fine. They're quite good. They're just not living up to like Obi-Wan numbers in Mandalorian. And so I think you're going to find the Mandalorian audience is definitely going to be there for Mandalorian Season 3. It's just, like, again, Andor is Star Wars for grown-ups. Not a lot of pew-pew and laser swords. I mean, yeah, which I love the pew-pew and laser swords. You know that I do. But this is more of a grown-ups Star Wars. And it's not the fantasy adventure that a lot of Star Wars is that attracts a lot of people. So it really shouldn't be surprising to a lot of people that it has, like, say, lower numbers than Mandalorian or Obi-Wan or stuff like that. But from what I understand, the numbers are actually quite fine. So we'll see how that goes. All right. Next up, we've got, that was My Comic Planet. Mike Sui writes, I love your show. Oh, thank you. And sent in like a $15 super chat just to say he loves the show. Mike, thank you so much. That's really kind of you, man. And I hope you have a great weekend. And thank you for supporting us. And thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that very much. All right. Max Papineau writes, hey, John, what are your thoughts on the Santa Claus movies with Tim Allen? I'm not a fan, to be honest with you. To me, they're Christmas classics, except 3. Thanks, and Bring on the Filthy. You know what? Let me refine that a bit. I like the first one. I like the first one. The first one was pretty good. Not a fan of them afterwards. I haven't seen the newest one, the Santa Clauses or something like that. I haven't seen that. I'll be honest with you. I'm not intending on watching it. Because again, I'm not a fan of the other ones. But yes, even I have to concede, I did like the first one, Max. I did. But I haven't seen the last one. I'm probably not going to, unfortunately. All right. Next up, Biscuits and Gravy writes in. I think a format I don't know what BOTH is. Star Wars and Marvel should use for D+. Start, let me try this again. I think format, both. It's not an acronym. It's actually the word both. I think a format both Star Wars and Marvel should use for Disney Plus is start with shows that formulate questions and create narrative tension, followed by movies that answer those questions and resolve those narratives. No. 100% wrong. No. Never create something that, because this nearly destroyed the comic book industry back in the 90s and the 2000s. Never create something that you won't fully get it unless you watch this other thing too. That is a recipe for disaster. One of the things that led to the downfall and nearly destroyed the comic book industry a couple of times in its history is the fact that, and John Schnepp talked a lot about this as well, is that they started putting out so many different titles. Like Spider-Man at one point had 5 different monthly titles or something like that. Anyway, they started putting out so many titles and so many comics were coming out, and they started to make that okay, you read Amazing Spider-Man issue 275, great. The story picks up in Excalibur issue 124. And you're like, oh wait, so I just like to read my Spider-Man comics. Now I got to go buy these other comics as well to get the story. And then you'd read Excalibur issue 121. It says story picks up in Bishop annual number 5. And oh, okay, now if I want to keep reading this story, I got to go back there. And that whole thing nearly destroyed the comic book industry. Again, John Schnepp was much better at talking about this. Rob also talks about this much better than I can, but that whole thing nearly destroyed and one of the best things about, one of the reasons the MCU has become as popular as it has is because every movie, up until now at least, has been an open entry point for somebody to start on their MCU journey. There's never been a sense that, if you want to watch this MCU movie, you got to go back and watch these 8 other ones first. They've never been like that. I mean, if you've watched all the other ones, you'd get a little bit more out of it. But all MCU movies, up until a certain point, you've been able to just come in. Any new viewer can just come in cold and become a new viewer, right? Up until Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which WandaVision was required viewing in order to really watch and really get what was going on in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Up until that point, Marvel has never done that, and they need to stay away from it. This whole idea that, you want to watch the MCU movies? Well, to get the movies, you're going to have to start watching the TV shows too. Now you got to do this, or else you're going to be left behind. That is absolutely not the way they should go. They need to avoid that at all costs, because that is how they're going to start hemorrhaging casual moviegoers. As soon as you start putting up obstacles for the casual moviegoers to get into your content, you're done. At least their level of success that they've enjoyed up to this point will be done. It'll be done. The hardcores like you and me, we go and watch the stuff and appreciate it, but the things that makes them billions and billions and billions of dollars is the casual moviegoers, the casual viewers. They've been so friendly to the casuals. That's why they've been able to be as successful as they are. The moment you start gatekeeping that, and the moment you start putting up obstacles for the casual moviegoer and the casual viewer, you are in big trouble. So with all respect, my film-loving brother, I completely disagree with you. I mean, I'm sure there are others who do agree with you too, but for me personally, I gotta say, my brother, I completely disagree. But hey, who knows, right? All right, next up. We got My Comic Planet who writes, watching the last John Wick 4 trailer, Donnie Yen is 59 and Keanu Reeves is 58, but these guys still look and move so well, so impressive. I mean, no, it's crazy. But I mean, look, but that's what happens when you take care of yourself, right? I mean, if you look at Tom Brady, the reason he is still he's up near the top in a lot of categories: passer completions, least amount of interceptions thrown, yards. The reason Tom Brady's what is he now? 44? Is he 44 or 43, guys? I can't remember. But the reason Tom Brady can still function like this at his age, Red Comet saying he's 45. So is Phil Magoo. He's 45. 40 freaking 5 years old, an elite quarterback in the NFL. The reason he can still do that is because for the last 20 years, he's been obsessed with properly taking care of his body. The more you invest early on, the more it pays off later, right? So he takes care of himself really, really well. And so you guys like Keanu Reeves, Donnie Yen, guys like this who have always taken care of themselves, I mean, they can still do some things at the age they're at, even when they're pushing 60. I mean, it's pretty awesome to see. All right. Let's see here. Next up, we've got Son of John writes, I've been trying to message you, John, about CW being sold and the time when you got angry. I love your passion of how Supergirl made Superman a jobber. I was pissed also. Yeah, man. I mean, look, it's pretty much everybody knows how I feel because I loved a lot of the CW shows. But the way they treated Superman in the CW Arrowverse was, to me, unforgivable. The fact that you used the granddaddy of all superheroes, bring him into your Supergirl show just to job to Supergirl, to try to put Supergirl over. And I get it, jobbing is sometimes necessary, but you do not job Batman, you do not job Wonder Woman, and you do not job Superman. And that to me, again, I'm not going to go into the whole thing again. Don't worry, I'm not going to go into that whole rant again. But the way they turned Superman into a jobber made it be like, I'll never forgive them for that. I will never forgive them for that. All right, that's just me though. All right, next up, My Comic Planet writes, John, why are so many screaming to boycott Hasbro over Magic the Gathering? Can you explain to me the drama? I know nothing about that. I've never heard of any of that, My Comic Planet, so I can't comment on that, unfortunately. All right, next up, Tony O'Sullivan writes, The Walking Dead came to an explosive end. I know you weren't the biggest fan, but you can't deny 12 years is a triumph. To all the fans, it's been a journey. Listen, yeah, I tapped out of Walking Dead a couple of seasons ago. Probably my last year at Collider was probably the last time I watched Walking Dead. I thought it was a fine show, but it had run its course. It was becoming repetitive to me and whatever. So I just decided to tap out. Because unlike some people, I'm not a hate viewer. Like if I don't enjoy something, don't watch it. Why is that such a hard concept for people to get? If there's something and you don't like it, you have two choices. Continue to waste your limited time on this earth. Because newsflash, we all have limited time on this earth, right? Why would you use your limited time, some of your limited time on this earth, to watch something that you don't like just so you can bitch and cry about it? Like when I come across something I don't like, once I get to the point that I realize, okay, this isn't for me, I'm not liking this, all right, I can either keep hate watching it and cry and bitch and moan about it, or I can tap out and say, hey, you know what? I've liked it up until this point, but now it's not for me, so I'm going to go spend my limited time on this earth by going to watch something I do enjoy. So that was it for me. But I liked Walking Dead at that point. But you're absolutely right. 5 seasons is a triumph. If you can make a show that lasts 5 seasons, number one, you got greenlit in the first place. Then you got renewed for another season. Then you got renewed again and again and again. That's a triumph in and of itself. 12 seasons, that's 1% of shows. Like maybe less than 1% of shows ever get to that 12 season number. I suppose why it's remarkable that Supernatural made it to 15. I mean, and Walking Dead was such a pop cultural phenomenon, right? So yeah, I may have tapped out on the show, but there is no denying like the impact and success that this show was. Absolutely, Tony. All right, next up, Alex Von Gollum writes, Genevieve did a great job in season 1, particularly in episode 12, with her subtle face expressions. She conveyed how much her heart was breaking, as the betrothal began. Oh, are you talking about the actress who plays Mon Mothma? If so, I didn't know. Actually, let me just double check this. Who plays Mon Mothma? And it is an actress, Genevieve O'Reilly. Okay, see that? I didn't remember her name. Genevieve O'Reilly. You're right. But like her, Luthen, Andor, Bix, Deidre. I mean, all the performances by all of them were awesome, but you're absolutely right. Mon Mothma was a standout as well. Absolutely. She was fantastic in that. All right. Jordan Ellis writes, hey, John, just saw the trailer for Plane. Looks pretty. Is that the new Gerard Butler film? I think it is. Looks pretty good. I don't know when it comes out, but have you seen the trailer on it and what are your thoughts? If we're talking about the Gerard Butler film, yeah, the trailer actually looks pretty good. I mean, it doesn't look like it's breaking any new ground and it doesn't look like it's an Oscar contender or anything. But it looks pretty fun. It looks like a solid Gerard Butler kind of film. If you haven't seen the trailer that Jordan's talking about, go check it out on YouTube because I thought it was pretty solid. I'm looking forward to watching it. All right. Next up, Max Papineau writes, hey, John, did you not see Devotion when you saw Glass Onion? Just curious what your thoughts were. Thanks. Love all that you guys do. Yeah, when Ann and I went to go see Glass Onion, we actually had tickets for Glass Onion and Devotion. We were going to double feature it. But by the time I had a long day, Anna had a long day, by the time we were done with Glass Onion, we went downstairs to eat because we had about an hour in between show times. We went downstairs to eat at the Yard House. There's a Yard House right there at the Tyler Galleria here in Riverside. That's where we go to our movies usually. We go to the AMC Tyler Galleria in Riverside. And downstairs there's some restaurants, including a Yard House. So we went downstairs to go to Yard House. And as we were sitting down, we just looked at each other and we knew that we were both exhausted. And I said to Ann, I'm the one who said, like, can I tell you something? I said, honestly, I don't know if I have another movie in me tonight. I'm exhausted. I don't know if I can sit through another one tonight. And Ann was like, yeah, I agree. I'm totally wiped from her day of work. And so we didn't see it. So hopefully we're going to go see it tonight. And I'm looking forward to see it because Jonathan Majors rules. Ann is a big Jonas Brothers fan and one of the Jonas Brothers is in it too. So we're probably going to go see that tonight. All right. Let's see. Next up. That was Max Papineau. Where are we at? Logan Hoyne writes, Nebula gift to Rocket had me laughing so hard. Again, I'm not going to give away what it is or was, but I mean, it's short too. This whole Christmas special is like, what was it? 45 minutes? It's like 45 minutes long. It's short, but delightful, powerful, delightful. Absolutely loved it. All right. Next up. But was that Logan? Yeah, it was. Okay. Safwat Newman writes, I've always felt the fear of mutants was generated by politicians and mutant hate groups. That's regarding people who have always been here and were never a threat until they were targeted. Bring on the filthy. So this brings on an issue we talk about around here a lot. And this issue of mine goes all the way back even into the comic book, in the original comics. I have never been given a really good reason. And I'm a big fan of the X-Men comics. I read them for years and years and years and years. I used to collect all of them, all that kind of stuff. But even as a big X-Men fan, I never felt the comics gave a good, solid explanation for how the world would look at all these superpowered beings that live in their universe. And like, those ones are okay, but the ones who have their powers as a result of being a mutant, we hate and fear them. Because the average person on the street, if they looked up in the sky and they saw a superhero flying across the sky all on fire and has a power of flame, well, what's the difference between Sunfire, a mutant, and Human Torch? They both doing the same thing. How would the average person living in that Marvel universe look up and say, oh, that one's a mutant and that one's not? There was no way of telling them. And I've never really felt that the comics, the cartoons, the movies ever really, well, the movies didn't have to because there were no other superheroes in the movies, right? It was only mutants. So in the Fox X-Men movies, that made sense because there weren't other superheroes. So it's like, yeah, just these people who have these random powers, they represent a threat to us Homo sapiens. But in a world where there's also a million other people with superpowers flying around, I mean, I don't know. I've never seen in the comics or in the cartoons or in the movies a valid explanation of that. Because how would the average person in that world even know if that guy who suddenly has a fourth arm come out of his back and lift up a truck? How would the average person in an MCU universe go, that's a mutant? Or that's somebody who has superpowers for another reason? There would be no telling. You'd never know. So I don't know. That's just one of the things to me. But we'll see how the MCU handles that, because I'm sure Kevin Feige will come up with something. Hey, thanks for that, Safwat. Next up, Hoopsuni writes, get a chance to watch Pepsi Where's My Jet yet? No, but I've got it queued up. I've got it queued up on the old Google Chromecast here. I've got it all queued. I got it set aside, ready to go. I haven't watched it yet, but the trailer for it looked awesome. I can't wait to watch it, but I have not seen it yet, but I will over the weekend at some point. All right. Next up, Dr. Bright writes, hey, John, how are you, man? I'm doing well, thank you. Tech question for you. I love tech questions. Would you recommend an Apple TV setup for a 4K projector to watch 4K content? I haven't had an Apple TV for a while. My main devices that I've used them all. I've used the Amazon Fire Stick. I've used Roku. I used the Google Chromecast. I've had the Apple TV. The last couple of years, I've really just leaned into the Roku and the Google Chromecast. But the new Apple 4K, the new one that came out this year with like the A14 Bionic in it, it's either got the A14 or the A15 Bionic in it. I'll tell you what, just this morning, I was watching a YouTube video about the new Apple TV Bionic. And I got to tell you, despite the fact that it is more expensive than the other streaming devices, because I think, how much does the Apple TV one cost, guys? I think the Apple TV one costs like, what, $120, $130 or something like that. I'm not really sure. If you guys in the live chat know what the answer to that is, that would be $150. Last time Krypton is saying it's like $150, right? So my Google Chromecast, which is awesome, the device I got hooked up to my projector, was like $35. It's like $35. So there's a price gap. But if you are really into the Apple ecosystem, and you're looking for a new thing and you're thinking you might want to try the Apple one, it is more expensive, but everything I'm reading about this new one is that it's really, really solid. I'm actually thinking in 2023, I'm probably going to get one and try it out myself. So it sounds like it would be a good option for you. All right. Thanks for writing that in, man. I love tech questions. All right. Biscuits and Gravy writes, I think Green Lantern should be DC's Iron Man equivalent, but what does that mean? You think Green Lantern should be like the core of the DC cinematic universe? I don't know if I've ever seen Green Lantern as being that. I mean, that's got to be Batman, Superman, or Wonder Woman. That's who you build DC around, is those core. I don't think Green Lantern is who you build your thing around. But maybe you mean that another way, Biscuits and Gravy, that I'm just not getting at this point. All right, thanks for your thoughts, dude. All right, next up. Christopher Jenks sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Christopher, for supporting us on that level, man. I really appreciate that. Christopher writes, my hype for Avatar: The Way of Water is through the roof. I wasn't blown away by the trailers, but I love the first Avatar and I love James Cameron as a filmmaker. I feel that his 3-hour epic might be something special. Listen, here's the thing, Christopher. If Guillermo Del Toro is coming out and saying, this movie's a masterpiece, it's epic visually, it's epic emotionally, and this is a movie that is a master filmmaker at the height of his powers. If Guillermo Del Toro is saying that, that's a pretty good recommendation. I mean, wouldn't we all agree that that in and of itself is a pretty good recommendation? I would think so. So yeah, listen, I agree with you. The trailers have not done a lot to get me super psyched, but I was already looking forward to it because it's James Cameron. Guillermo Del Toro coming out and calling it a masterpiece and saying it's epic and all that kind of stuff. That's a pretty good recommendation. So we'll see what the other critics say when the critic reviews start coming out, but that's a pretty good one to hear right now, Christopher. Anyway, Christopher, again, thanks for sharing your thoughts and thank you for supporting us on that level, dude. That's really kind of you. All right. Next up, Johnny Got Lost writes, as per Ray's recommendation, I watched This Fool on Hulu, and oh my God, it's hilarious. People should watch this show. I've heard good things. You know, all I ever saw was one trailer for it, and quite honestly, the trailer confused me a little bit. I wasn't quite sure what it was trying to do or what it was trying to get at. But I've heard from a number of people, including Ray, that really quite enjoyed it and are recommending it. All right, thanks for adding your voice to that, man. Matt G writes, John, I had to sit through 43 minutes of ads and trailers before Wakanda. 43 minutes of ads and trailers before Wakanda Forever. Are we going to get to a point where fans start complaining? Well, listen, I've already been complaining, but I do have to ask you this, Matt. When you say you had to sit through 43 minutes, was that 43 minutes from the advertised start time? Because for me, if they say the movie starts at 7, then if I get there at 6:45 and they have commercials on, I don't hold that against them. I'm fine with that. Hey, if I'm here early and you say the movie starts at 7, whatever you put on the screen before 7 o'clock, as far as I'm concerned, is totally fair. But once 7 o'clock hits, that you said this movie starts at 7, I start holding that against you. Because when a movie says it starts at 7 and it doesn't start till 7:30, that's bullshit. This was not a free screening. I paid to be in this movie theater. I paid, in many cases, $17 to be sitting in this chair in this movie theater. I paid to be here. You don't throw a half hour of commercials at me when I paid to be here. So I will hold that against. So I've got to ask Matt, maybe you can email me at some point, but when you say 43 minutes, was that 43 minutes from when the movie was supposed to start? Or was that you showed up like 15 minutes early, had to watch 15 minutes, and then you had to watch another half hour? I'd be curious to know, because if some movie theater is playing 43 minutes of ads after the scheduled start time, you should never go to that movie theater again. And you should go talk to the manager, be polite, be very nice, say, hey, I just want to let you know as a manager, just so you know this, you can pass it up to the people in authority at the movie theater chain, that while I have loved coming to this theater, I won't be coming to this theater anymore. And the reason being is that my time is valuable, and you guys had a scheduled show time of 7 p.m., and my movie didn't start till 7:43. That to me was unacceptable. And I have loved coming to this theater, but I just let you know so you can pass it up to the higher ups and maybe change can happen. And I appreciate that you as a manager of this theater, I appreciate the work that you do, but I just need to communicate that I won't be coming to this theater anymore, and that's why. And have a great day. So be polite, be nice. It's not the manager's fault, but I would communicate to the movie theater that you're not coming to the movie theater anymore. Do it politely, do it nicely. These are human beings you're talking to. So be polite, but just, communicate that to them, because that's the only way things are going to change. It's the only way things are going to change. Thanks for that, Matt. All right, let's see. Next up, we've got Peter Cunnington, who writes, if I wasn't seeing 2 other movies this weekend, both Knives Out, Glass Onion, and Fabelmans, I would go see Strange World, maybe on Disney Plus. Yeah, I am not planning on watching Strange World. Not because I'm boycotting it or anything stupid like that. It's just that, hey, Disney, you communicated that you didn't really believe in this film by not marketing it much. And you didn't feel the need to tell me what the movie was about to convince me to come see it. So if you're not all that interested in your movie, why should I be interested in your movie? And so it's just, again, I'm not boycotting anything stupid. I'm just, hey, I'm not planning on seeing it because Disney didn't seem to think it's all that important to convince us to go see it. So that's just me. Anyway, I hope if you see it, Peter, I hope you have a good time at it, man. Do let us know what you think of it once you do. Okay. Biscuits and Gravy writes, if V. Davis in Woman King, Viola Davis, and Regina Hall for Honk for Jesus doesn't get Best Actress nominations, throw the whole awards out. I'll put those fantastic, great, amazing performances up against any actress. Here's the problem, Biscuits and Gravy, and this is the problem that a lot of film fans have, which is, have you seen all the Oscar contending movies coming out between now and the end of the year? Have you seen all these things? Because if you've not seen everything and you haven't seen the movies that maybe, look, I think it seems pretty much like a lock that Viola Davis is going to get a nomination for Honk for Jesus. Regina I'm hearing buzz, she could get a nomination for Honk for Jesus. Viola was, of course, for Woman King. But if they don't, that's the thing about Oscars and what makes Oscars so difficult. You can't just be great in your movie. You have to be great in your movie and hope that 5 other people didn't also deliver the best performances of their lifetimes, right? See, I remember a couple of years ago when the hashtag Oscars So White thing went around because Will Smith didn't get a nomination for Best Actor for that NFL concussion movie he did. I can't remember the name. Guys, what was the name of that movie again? Throw it in the live chat there. I'll keep my eyes open there. But was that what it's called? Concussion? The name of the movie was Concussion? Yeah, the name was Concussion. So I remember that argument went on and I said, well, here's the thing. I'm a big Will Smith fan and I thought he was awesome in Concussion. But when I looked at the nominee list, I was like, they all deserve those nominations. I'm not saying that Will Smith wasn't fantastic in Concussion, but I didn't see a single name on that nominee list that didn't deserve to be there. And that's where it gets tricky, right? So, and what we as film fans are often guilty of, I think you have been guilty of this. I know I have been guilty of this. I think everybody, all film fans have been guilty of this. We all do it. Is that we see a performance and we think it's great and we're just going, well, if they don't win a nomination, but have we seen all the ones that did get nominations? Again, that's what makes winning an Oscar and even being nominated for an Oscar such a hard thing to do, because you can't just be great. You got to hope that somebody else wasn't just a little bit greater that year. So, and I personally haven't seen every single awards contending movie yet. I still got a few weeks to do that, but it's going to be hard to really have an opinion or form an opinion on that until we do. So we'll see. But I mean, absolutely, Viola Davis was remarkable in Woman King. I mean, no getting around that. Absolutely true. And I suspect she will get one of those nominations completely. All right. Stubble McShave writes, R.I.P. Boreas Salming, all-time great Toronto Maple Leaf. Boreas Salming, who played for the Toronto Maple Leafs when I was a child growing up and really getting into sports and into hockey. Number 21, yeah, he passed away. I was very, very sad to hear that, man. All right, next up. Joshua McGregor writes, hey, John, whenever Kevin Feige calls and asks for your opinion, I know that Marvel is in good hands. LOL. Love all that you do and bring on the filthy. Yes, of course, because everybody knows Kevin Feige, he needs the council of Campea. He needs John Campea's counsel and advice. Clearly he does not. And boy, that would be a sign that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is really in rough shape if they ever started calling me for my advice. All right, thanks for that, Joshua. All right, stop. My Comic Planet writes, Taika's Thor Love and Thunder versus James Gunn's comic films. Taika wants to show you how funny he is, but Gunn wants to show you how funny this world and these characters are and how deeply he loves that about them. I disagree. I don't get that at all whatsoever. I just think in one it worked and one it doesn't. Listen, when I watch Jojo Rabbit, right? The humor in that, let me just pull this up here. The humor in that never felt like to me, like he was trying to say, look how funny I am. Never felt that way. When I watched Thor Ragnarok, which I think is fantastic. Thor Ragnarok is fucking fantastic. When I watched Thor Ragnarok, I never once got the sense that Taika Waititi was, look how funny I am. I never got that sense at all. It was all, look how fun and lighthearted this world of this Norse god can be. I always felt that. When I watched Search for the Wilder People, Hunt for the Wilder People. When I watch Hunt for the Wilder People, I never get a sense that Taika Waititi is like, look how funny I am. No, I never got that at all. Thor Love and Thunder they just decided to lean too much that way, right? They just decided to lean a little bit too much that way. Not a little bit, a lot. Like, because they saw what worked in Thor Ragnarok and they just thought, oh, well, let's do more of that, but double down on it. And that's unfortunate because, again, Thor Ragnarok, I thought was a perfect balance for Thor. The balance between the darker and the heavier stuff and the super light and the silly. It was a good balance of that, right down the middle. It worked. And instead of keeping that balance, they went, and then went way over the other way, right? With James Gunn, listen, James Gunn has had some stuff that not everybody loved. I mean, I love James Gunn. I'm all for anything James Gunn does. But for a lot of people, some of his stuff doesn't work and whatever. But I disagree with you wholeheartedly that this was, I think it's an oversimplification and I don't agree. I mean, it's your perception and your opinion is no less and no more valid than mine. But I just got to say, I disagree with you. While I think Thor Love and Thunder was his weakest work, I never felt that he was going, look how funny I am. I think it's just that in one it worked and in one it doesn't. When it didn't work. But that's just my own personal kind of evaluation of the situation. All right. Next up, we've got Al Rencho says, I would love to see Lobo introduced in Green Lantern. I only want to see that if it fits with the story of the movie. I don't want them shoehorning in some random character just because people want to see him. If it works for the story and as a part of the story, then I'd love to see it. All right. Next up, Christian Harloff. Some no-name dude, Christian Harloff, sent me $50, which is very kind, Christian. And Christian wrote, what does Christian have to say? Do you think the Kathleen Kennedy Indiana Jones tip you got is setting up a walk off the court exit for Kathleen? If she hits gold with Indy 5 and then decides to move on, or are you still think it's possible she closes out? Okay, so for those of you who don't know what Christian's talking about, the other day, and let me set this up properly. So the other day, somebody wrote in on the show and said, hey, now that Bob Iger's back, do you think that means Kathleen Kennedy's going to be shown the door and she's gone? And I said, no. If anything, I think Bob Iger has been a Kathleen Kennedy supporter and ally. And with Bob Iger coming back, I think that means that Kathleen Kennedy, while I don't think she's going to stay beyond her current contract, which I think ends in 2025, I think 2025 comes and she's gone. But I said, I think Bob Iger coming back means she's more secure being at Lucasfilm than before. That's what I thought. Now, I said that on the show that I think Bob Iger coming back only reinforces Kathleen Kennedy's position at Lucasfilm, and I don't think she's going anywhere immediately. Now, after I said that on the show, that night, I got an text message. I got a message from somebody who is closely connected to the situation that just basically, I'm paraphrasing, but basically saying, hey, John, heard you say that Bob Iger coming back means Kathleen's more secure. You're wrong. You couldn't be more wrong. I'm like, oh. And this is somebody who is in a position that they would know. The next morning, before I did the next episode of the John Campea Show, I got contacted by somebody else, also very closely connected to the situation, very much in the know, and is one of the people that gave me the Ben Affleck was out as Batman scoop years ago that nobody believed me, but it turns out it was right. And yeah, they got a hold of me separately the morning after and said, yeah, John, you saying that Iger being back only secures Kathy Kennedy more? It does not. She's gone. And the decision for her to be gone has already been made. That internally at Disney, her time at Disney is done. Her time at Lucasfilm is done. The decision's already been made. She knows about it. The infrastructure, the leadership knows about it. It's just a matter of when they're going to announce it. This person I talked to said it will probably be before Indiana Jones 5, but they may not want to have that PR disruption with the promotion of Indiana Jones 5, and they might wait until after Indiana Jones 5 comes out in theaters. But either way, the decision's made. She's done. She's gone. So that's the context of what Christian's bringing up here. Because obviously Christian, the Kathleen Kennedy situation is a situation that obviously Christian follows very, very carefully. As Star Wars fans, we have a big invested interest in this. So now Christian's saying, hey, do you think maybe if Indy 5 comes out and it's a huge thing, does maybe she stay after that? I don't think so. I think it's exactly the way Christian puts it. I think she's gone regardless. But maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed, Indiana Jones 5, because it's got James Mangold directing it, who is amazing. So if Indiana Jones 5 can be a big win, maybe they're setting it up so she can have, like you said, a walk off the court, a walk off home run, that Kennedy can leave on a real high note. That Indiana Jones 5 is a big win. The critics love it. It does well at the box office. And that can be Kathleen Kennedy's tip of the hat and walk off into the sunset and go off to continue being what she is, one of the great producers of all times. She just hasn't been a great head of Lucasfilm. But I'm thinking it's going to be after Indiana Jones 5 comes out, so she can have that walk off, like the way you were. I love the way Christian worded that, is a walk off. Yeah, I think that's what they're going to do. Now, the one person I talked to said it would probably be before Indiana Jones comes out, but I think it will be shortly thereafter. So that's my guess. Anyway, Harloff, thank you. We'll see you on Tuesday, right? Yeah, you're coming in on Tuesday. Tuesday's the 29th? Tomorrow's the 26th, 27th. Yes, 29th. Christian Harloff on the John Campea Show on the 29th. Keep your guys always open for him and make sure you go check out his channel. Okay, let's keep moving now. Thank you, Christian. And I'm sure you're going to show up at the office on Tuesday and tell me to give you your $50 back. All right, next up, GC Nightcrawler writes, finally got a chance to do a super Usin. Do you mean question? It to remind that the dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. Okay, that's a line from the movie. I'm not quite sure what it is you're getting at, GC, but maybe you write it in a little bit later. I'll keep my eyes open for it. Okay. Thank you, GC. Next up, M. Jada writes, Del Toro's father was kidnapped and Cameron paid ransom. Okay, we were talking a little bit earlier about Guillermo Del Toro coming out and raving about Avatar 2. It's like, I don't know, maybe it's because he's friends. No, Del Toro's father was kidnapped and Cameron paid the ransom. All right, Azek Cushman writes, thoughts on Nice Guys follow-up. Are they doing a Nice Guys follow-up? I didn't think they were. Are they? Or are you saying theoretically? I mean, yeah, theoretically, they should absolutely do a Nice Guys follow-up. Nice Guys was an awesome movie. It was an awesome movie that was set up to could have been a great franchise. You could have made a franchise out of that. But unfortunately, people didn't go see it, which sucks because it was an original movie. It was wonderful to watch, super entertaining, and nobody checked it out, unfortunately. All right. Magic K writes, I went to AMC Atlantic Times Square 14 to watch a movie. I finally understand your frustration with AMC. After those A-list promos, never-ending trailers, and Nicole Kidman, then the movie finally started. Yeah, I'm telling you what, it is so frustrating. You'd think I get used to it, but every single fucking time, it's so frustrating. Movie's supposed to start at 7. Meanwhile, you sit through 12 trailers, some commercials, and then you think, okay, they're finally starting the movie. Nope. Then they play the Nicole Kidman ad again, which I've now seen like 40 fucking times. And you look at your watch, it's like, this movie was supposed to start 25 minutes ago, and we got more. It's infuriating, Magic K. It's infuriating to me, man. Anyway, thanks for consoling me, dude. I appreciate that. All right, Fanjecture writes, do you think Strange World will be on Disney Plus by Christmas? No, I don't think I think they'll honor the 45-day window. So no, I don't think it'll be, well, that would be close to the 45-day window, wouldn't it? You know what? Fanjecture? Yes, I'll say yes. It'll probably be on Disney Plus by Christmas. All right, good point. All right, DNK Global writes, The Leo Titanic story is from a GQ interview James Cameron did recently, which is on YouTube in its entirety to watch. He talks Titanic and other movies. Yeah, we did mention it was from a GQ interview. I didn't know the video was available, though, DNK. That's good information. See, this is one of the reasons why I love having the community. So that you guys will have this information and we get to share it with everybody else. So I did not know that the video was available. Thank you for that. I'm going to go check that out. Thank you for letting everybody know, DNK. All right. Next up, Chuck the Mystery writes, hey, John, did you ever get a chance to see The Outfit with Mark Rylance? I found that film fantastic. Thoughts? Loved the menu. Ralph deserves that Oscar nomination. I never did get a chance to watch The Outfit with Mark Rylance. It's kind of on a wish list for me to watch because I love Mark Rylance. But yeah, listen, the menu's amazing. Now, I can't sit here and say definitively, because we just talked about how hard it is to get an Oscar nomination. I haven't seen all the performances yet, so I can't say with certainty that Ralph Fiennes 100% deserves that nomination. I will say, though, he's remarkable in it, and I do not be surprised if he gets an Oscar nomination for this, because he's remarkable in the menu. Loved him in this. All right, thanks a lot for that, Chuck. Silent W197 writes, sorry guys, my voice is starting to go. Is Guardians of the Galaxy special the best Marvel content this year? Is the Guardian holiday special the best Marvel content this year? No. I'll say it's the second best piece of Marvel content this year. I think the best is Ms. Marvel. Not everybody will agree with me on that. That's fine. But it's real close. It's real close. But I would still say Ms. Marvel just nudges it out. Just nudges it out. But it's a good question. All right. Let's see. Cole writes, thoughts on a new Luther movie coming to Netflix in March? That's the, are you talking about the Idris Elba property? I mean, I don't have many things. I didn't watch a lot of Luther. I don't have a big opinion about it, but it's Idris Elba, if I'm thinking of the right one. If I'm thinking about if the Idris Elba one we're talking about. And yes, you guys are saying in the live chat, it's the Idris Elba. Yeah, obviously, if it's Idris Elba, I'm interested. So I will check it out, but I don't have a lot of thoughts about it other than that. I wasn't a big viewer of the show, unfortunately. All right. And guys, I think that does it. Hold on, give me a second here just to double check this. I want to try to make sure we get every question answered. Hold on a second. What am I looking at? Oh, that's what I'm trying to do. I just want to make sure we get everything questioned. Oh, the only one thing we missed, apparently, was that Robert Walker sent in just a super chat to be supportive. And all right, guys, that'll do it for this installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making this show part of your day. Big special thank you to all of you guys who sent in those super chats. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And to all of you guys, thank you so much for your support. I will do probably either a John Campea After Dark or an Ask Me Anything this weekend. So keep your guys' eyes open for that at some point during the weekend. Other than that, the full regular crew of the John Campea Show returns on Monday. So make sure you guys come and join us for that as well. All right, guys, my throat's now gone. I'm going to go sit down with Ann and watch the holiday special again. Then we're going to go do some Black Friday shopping. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend ahead of you. So that'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.